Hi, good morning. This is Bill the Butcher coming to you again with a little simple little project in home butchering. But this morning I got to start out with a little background story about this particular project. What we're going to do is we're going to take the bones out of a pork leg and separate it into its different muscles, and then we're also going to tie one into a roast. Anyway, the story I got to start out with is about my mom. I was blessed with a mom that was just a great cook. I don't mean she could fry chicken or make a cake from scratch. I mean, she was really a great cook. She understood what was going on when you added flour and yeast together, and she knew how the yeast interacted with the sugars and the starches in the flour, and how you ended up with a bread with a nice crust, and just a few important things like that. What happened when a piece of meat hit a hot frying pan, and what combination you had to have to get a nice brown crust on a steak. And she just knew those things. But she gave me one real important tip about cooking that stayed with me, that helped me to just learn how to take care of myself in the kitchen, and that is, she said that if you could make a white sauce, you could cook. And what she meant by that was flour and butter heated in a pan until it kind of smelled like biscuits, and not browned, but heated through, like I said, smelling like biscuits, and you'd add hot milk to it, and you'd have a white sauce. And if you could make that white sauce, you could make gravy. You could take that beautiful mixture and add some onions and fresh peas and parsley, and mix that in with some fresh red potatoes from Dad's garden, and you'd have a meal that was just fabulous. And if you had too many eggs in the fridge, you could use that same white sauce as a big part of the ingredient in making a nice souffle. So anyway, she was a real cook, and she told me that, and I learned how to make a white sauce, and so I can cook. I can, you're kind of king of the kitchen when you can do that. But this isn't about cooking. This is about something else, and this story leads into another one about the man that taught me how to be a butcher. He was an old, crusty old guy, and he was really good at what he did. He understood it all. I didn't just understand, how to, cut up a choice beef and give somebody a tender steak. He understood about the different types of beef, the different types of pork, the different types of lamb and mutton and all that stuff. He's the kind of guy that doesn't really exist much in the meat world anymore. But he had that same attitude that my mom had. He was a little ornerier than she was. But what he said is that if you could bone out a pork leg and bone it and tie it into a roast, you were well on your way to being a butcher. And so that's going to be a lesson that I'm going to start with today. I've done some other things with my capable assistant Freddie, who is, I think after we do this, he's going to go to work for Ken Burns. That's all I can guess. He's just doing a wonderful job. So anyway, we'll start with this leg. I'm going to take the bones out of it. I've got a leg, one from each side. And these are ranch butchered pigs. So they don't have a skin on them. They've already been skinned. So we'll just skip that part of the process. And we're just going to take the bones out of it. And I'm going to start on the back here. And I'm going to, let's see, get this around where Freddie can see it. I'm going to take this little bit of meat off of it's known as the aitch bone. It's a nice little oyster that can go to sausage. And then I'm going to follow this bone around, this aitch bone. And all this stuff, the main thing you want to do is just keep the knife close to the bone so you don't stab the meat. And in here, there's the tail end of the femur, and there's a little sinew in there that holds it on. And if you're going to make prosciutto or something of that sort, you want to be careful with that ach bone. You don't want to nick it with your knife. You just want to cut that little tendon that holds it in there. Because like I said, if you're making prosciutto, if you nick that bone, it tends to bring a little spoilage in the curing process. But that's another story. So anyway, this is the ach bone. And there it is, and that's clean enough. We're not going to worry too much about it. You can use that, put that in the stock pot. And if you're not having the rabbi over for dinner, you can put it in with the chicken bones and nobody will know the difference. And the next part of this project is I'm going to take that femur, open it up where you can see it, and I just hold my knife flat along the top of the bone, and this will expose some of the seams. And this part that comes off here is the top round. And you just want to open it up. So there you go, you got your top round. That's a major muscle group. Underneath is the bottom round. Over here would be the sirloin tip part of the leg. And I'm going to take the shank off next. And I do that by cutting loose this piece of tendon here. And then again, it's just a case of following the bone. You run your knife along here next to the bone. Try to keep it close. You don't want to hack things up. And a pork leg is different than other legs in that it's got an extra little bone in it. And we're not even going to worry much about that because, like I said, these bones will head for the stock pot. And while I'm cutting this away from the bone, I'm pulling away all the time, and I'm using this hook. You can use your hand, but I prefer to use a hook because I don't like to cut my hands. Anyway, there's a joint here between this hock or shank and the femur, and you just feel that with your knife, and you take it off like you would a chicken leg. And then you just follow around the bone. And there's a little bit of meat in between these two bones here. Like I said, a pork leg is different from a lamb leg or a beef shank in that it has this extra bone in it. A beef shank sometimes has a little vestige of that bone there, but it's not prominent like this. So anyway, there we are. We've got just about all the bone out.